I would like to, before we begin, just remind everybody to have their microphone on so that, and the date's Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. Let's see. There are no commissioners absent, but 2 are attending virtually, and that's Jim Franklin and Buzz Artiano. I'm going to open the meeting now and take a roll call. I'm Kalina Vendetti. Jim Franklin.
Here.
Dot McFarland.
Here.
Megan Hickey.
Here.
Buzz Artiano.
Here.
Marilyn Cozadoy.
Here.
And Brian Payne.
Here.
That's the commission. Please note we're doing a hybrid meeting with both in-person and virtual attendance. So if a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and you'll be assigned a speaking time. If you're listening in via telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting's being recorded by the local scene. We're very grateful. And a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they're able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify me at this time. Anyone? Okay, great. All right, first order of business tonight is the signing of documents.
Has everybody signed in? We have a sign-in sheet over here.
And if you don't mind signing in, if you can get over there.
Pass it down to you.
Yeah, don't worry. He's dead asleep, so I loaded him up with an 8-ounce bottle.
Okay, there you go.
Did you say documents?
Yeah, can I borrow your pen?
Sure.
Thanks.
You can keep it. We have extension permit for the Mass DOT orders of conditions, the determination of applicability for 56 Main Street, an amended enforcement order for 56 Main Street, enforcement order for 28 Rabbith Road, and amended enforcement order for 375 Elm Street. And just a comment on that, because it came up at the last meeting, I was to check with town council on amending enforcement orders, and he said it really doesn't matter either way. So we did some of these as amended enforcement orders. Probably will continue to just issue them as standalone enforcement orders, because essentially the mechanism that you're doing for an amended enforcement order is to make an enforcement order and issue it. So there is not really a form or anything for amending it. So just as a note. And that's it.
Okay, did you hand those down? Did we sign?
Yeah, I actually started them down that way
Yeah, I've got
so
them.
that
They're working their
we could
way
get a
back
head
up.
start. There's a lot of them.
Okay, so we're going to move on to action items. There's a request for certificate of compliance, we abbreviate that COC, for 15 Kingston Street. I'm going to open a public meeting to discuss this. Do you have any comments, Matt?
Yeah, so we dealt with this at the last meeting, and there was a discrepancy in the plan with the impervious surface, and we did receive an updated plan that showed correctly that 14.9% was what had been approved in the OOCs, and the as-built shows 14.7%, and they provided some visuals that made it a little easier to confirm that number. The shed and technically the small foundation for the pool equipment were not in the approved OOCs. I checked our guidelines, and our administrative approval process allows a shed under 200 square feet to be approved under admin review, and it is outside of the 50-foot no structure, so I recommended to the applicant that they provide a administrative review application for the shed and the little foundation for the pool equipment, because the 14.7% that I just quoted includes both of those. So they are still under the impervious surface calculations for their permit, and they did provide an administrative review application for the shed and that small pool pump foundation, whatever it is. And so I have that ready, and I can issue that tomorrow if the commission's amenable to that. And with that, I would say that they have done everything they needed to do, and the restoration area looked good, and I would recommend issuing a COC.
Is there a representative or applicant online or here in present now?
I don't see anybody online.
Any comments from the commissioners? Any comments from the public here present? Okay. Do we hear a motion to accept the request for the COC?
So moved.
Second. Okay, that motion has been made and seconded. Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Karina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
It's unanimous to accept the request.
And Kalina?
Yes.
Just later on in the updates, we have administrative review, 15 Kingston Street. I just described it. If anybody has questions, let me know. Otherwise, we don't have to deal with it later.
Okay. Are you ready?
That's the way I like it.
You want to talk about the culvert, Matt?
Yes, in front of 15 Kingston Street. Remember, I don't know if anybody remembers the culvert that goes underneath 15 and 19 Kingston Street that was crushed in 2021 and replaced with reinforced concrete pipe. The old metal corrugated culvert under the road has rotted and has subsided, and now there's a sinkhole forming in Kingston Street. The highway superintendent has contracted environmental partners to engineer the replacement of that pipe with RCP and to create a head wall. Currently, the metal pipe just sticks out of the road with really no protection. So typically, if it was strictly in-road work, I would say that would be exempted, but since it's not strictly in the road, that's something that I said that I would issue an emergency certification for, so they could quickly replace that before the road, who knows how big that sinkhole could get with rain and everything. So that I will issue an emergency certification on, and that work should be done over the next month whenever they can get the design plans done and get the material in stock.
You need a motion to,
No, just sort of an update for the commission on
Okay.
that is going on. There is a requirement in the emergency certification that I inform the commission about these things. I can't inform you yet that I issued it, but by the time I inform you of that, it might already be done anyways.
Okay.
So I figured it was a chance to bring that up in case the commission has any questions or concerns. You have plenty of time to come to me with them.
are there any questions or concerns from the commission?
No.
Are there any questions or concerns from the members of the public here or online? No, okay, thanks. All right, we're gonna move on to enforcement. We ready to do that?
Yeah, and just a reminder that now our hearings start at 6:45, so we'll only get likely into one
Okay.
enforcement issue before we move to
And that would be
hearings.
44 Rabbith Road?
Yep.
Okay. Want to give us a summary?
Sure. I can, has everybody reviewed pictures, or is it worthwhile for me to bring anything up on the screen? Because if I don't have to, then,
Would you want to do it for the public's edification, or?
I could.
Yeah.
So we already opened this at a previous meeting and had some of the discussion. It was decided that a site visit would take place. We did that on August 14th. Sorry, haven't got rid of 15 Kingston Street yet. We did the site visit on August 20th with a couple of commissioners in attendance and the homeowner, Tom Carroll, who's present tonight. We looked through some things. He explained, what he was thinking in building that retaining wall and trying to keep runoff from getting down to the pond. We kind of looked around the area, looked at the elevations. It appeared that could have that effect, that it was relatively level now at the top. There are a couple of docks on the property. There's been a dock on the property, but as far back as you can see on the aerial imagery, at least 1971, if not 1960. But the longest running dock was replaced and significantly resized between 2019 and 2021. commission hasn't really, we haven't wrapped up all of our, dock, how we're gonna deal with docks guidance yet, but, the thought process there is that for sort of historic unpermitted docks, that once you replace it or resize it, you'd need a permit. There is a second dock on the property and a float. I think typically people are restricted to one dock, so that's another consideration. We've already gone through sort of the timeline of tree clearing and all that. If anybody needs an update on any of that, let me know. A lot of that tree clearing had to do with the creation of that retaining wall and the concrete parking area up by the driveway. Multiple sheds on the property within jurisdiction. It's unknown how old they are, how long they've been there due to tree cover. Just a side note, I would say a good portion of the unpermitted alterations within jurisdiction have occurred off of the subject property on land owned by abutters. And Tom has said at our site visit that he has a friendly relationship with them and they have no issue with it, but they were never invited to any of these meetings. I'm not sure if that's something that we should be doing, or I don't know. Especially if it comes down to any need for things to change or any permitting or anything like that. They would probably need to sign off on that. So this is a historically developed site. The site originally was developed, I think, in 1890, so long before state and local wetlands regulations. We did sort of scour. I had a commissioner ask about, septic system and previous filings, and so I went through all building department records and health department records. Health department had no record of any septic system. The owner of the property since told me it has a cesspool that's been there for a long time. The house was renovated in 1994, which was window replacement of foundation piers, re-insulation, re-siding, and building a triangular 70-square-foot deck. And that permit did note owner must comply with all sections of MGL Chapter 131, Section 140, and all local wetlands regulations. There was not a wetland permit on that filing. There should have been, but there wasn't. But we're talking 1994 at this point. The next month in 1994, they received a permit to raise the roof in the bedroom upstairs. So yeah. That's what we have on the permitting record. And so like I said, long before state and local wetlands regs, but there have been changes to the site unpermitted, including changes over recent years. The commission should require the property come into compliance, but that's not easily defined in this situation. At a minimum, permitting is needed in retro for work involving the retaining wall and parking area. I thought there were minimal opportunities for mitigation due to the small size of the parcel. You could reclaim some of the shorefront with native vegetation, and I could pull that up on the picture in a minute just to sort of give you an idea of what that could be like, along with reducing down to one dock. Typically, like I said, that's allowed, even though we haven't updated that policy yet. I think it still already says that in the existing regs. So none of the dock stuff really needs, it's not that we don't have the regulations, it's just we were looking for ways to deal with unpermitted situations when people weren't already in front of us for situations. In some cases, the commission has accepted infiltration of downspouts as mitigation, particularly where impervious surface has increased, where on this property it has because of the concrete up at the top. So that could be another way of, potential mitigation. The secondary, and this is where we didn't talk about this much at the site visit, but the secondary dock, the smaller dock, has something on it that was called the duck house. It wasn't clear whether there are or were ducks on the property, but I just wanted to make the point that there's sort of a fine line with agricultural uses and wetlands uses, and they recently updated the agricultural regulations in Kingston, stating that for waterfowl, the only way you can have them in a body of water is if you own the entire body of water. As a side note, I had a little bit of, wanted more input onto that to specify that If you have a vernal pool on your property, that wouldn't count. You would still need a permit from us, and it probably wouldn't happen. But basically, if you had a small water feature on your entire property, you could put docks in there. So I don't know if there are docks or were docks. I just wanted to point that out, that that would be something also that wouldn't really be necessarily allowed in this situation. So that's what I have. If you have questions, comments, I don't really have a good recommendation here. I've stated before, the retaining wall as constituted does not meet the minimum standards of KWPR, but it does specify that that could be overcome by showing that there's nothing better that could have been done and that sort of thing. So
Like an alternatives analysis?
sort of, yeah. It's, that if that's the only place you could build a retaining wall on the property, and there's a solid need for a retaining wall there, and it's going to be more of a benefit than a detriment because it's gonna stop runoff, then I would walk back me saying it would not be permittable. I mean, it's possible, but either way, I think Tom understands that it should have been permitted and it wasn't permitted. So it's not a question of that. It's just, I want to walk back a little bit, me saying it's something that wouldn't be permitted. It doesn't meet that standard that says no greater than 4 feet within 50 feet of a resource area. But yeah, I'll
So
stop.
no sense asking for a retroactive permit because they couldn't get it, right?
I would think if you're gonna ask for if you're gonna get a retroactive permit on that, I think you need something at least stating that, that's the best thing that could go in that situation, that's the only place it could go, and that it's sound, so.
The property owners are here, right? You want to come up, introduce yourself for the record, please, and tell us your story. And give us the address, just for the record. Oh, wait a minute, I don't think your
Is the green
mic
light
is
on the mic? You might have to push the button.
Press the button. There you go.
Thomas Carroll,
And the address again.
44 Rabbit Road.
Thank you. All right, tell us what's up, Mr. Carroll.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You've met with an agent who's come out to the property and identified some issues that we have. Do you have any comments that you want to make about that for the commission?
I don't think so. I missed the first part that you were saying. Yeah, 4 agents came out, while 4 of the board members came out.
All right. And did you hear Matt's presentation about the issues that we have?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to respond to that?
Besides what I said last time I was here, I realize I did not get permission, and I should have. I did the wrong thing essentially by not getting permission. But I think when the board members came out, they saw that it wasn't harmful to the lake. I didn't take anything at the waterfront, just built the wall to stop the water from running down the driveway into the lake. And it doesn't anymore.
All right.
I realize I went about it the wrong way. I should have asked permission. It didn't really occur to me.
Okay. Do you have some comments from the commission?
Sure. Again, this is such a multi-layered situation, so I think maybe starting with some things that are a little bit more straight ahead, and like the docks. In the Kingston regs, it does say only 1 dock is permitted on a residential property, so that's a place to start. It also talks about the sizes of things, the length of the dock and the size of the float, and it says, the commission may require that no float or terminal portion of a dock shall exceed more than 160 square feet in area. And I think if I'm reading the material properly, your floating dock is about 250 square feet. So again, Matt, I'm just, looking for a place to start with some of this.
I understand it. 16 by 16 is the floating dock. That's not attached to the land. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the float.
Okay, yeah.
And then the width of the dock, according to our regs, is 4 feet, and I believe yours is 13 feet wide now, according to the notes. So as I said, that, just a place to start.
Yeah, so we're talking about the dock now, not
The
That's,
dock and the float, and then
Right, so-
removing 2 docks.
yeah, so the dock now, not the float. I think it's 13 by 28 or something, maybe?
It says 50 feet long and
Oh.
and 13 feet wide.
It could be, it's 13 feet wide, I'm pretty sure. This dock's been there since I was a little kid. I just replaced the uprights and put hardwood on top. The other dock, the duck house dock, I'll take that right out. We don't have ducks anymore.
You're not keeping domestic waterfowl?
No, no, we weren't really either, but they liked it. They were laying eggs, but that's been years. I could take that right out.
And I'm just going to punt back to Matt, so.
And you mentioned the floaty dock as well, yeah.
We haven't had ducks in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, as far as floating docks, I
I
think
didn't
they are
read-
docks. So,
I think Google Earth shows that there's been a dock there since before Google Earth.
yeah, no, I did. I think I said earlier, it may have been back, it was definitely 1971, if not 1960. But it was definitely resized between 2019 and
Right.
2021. So, there was a dock there.
Yeah.
So if that was all,
I
it was
think it
just
got
that dock still
shorter.
there, we probably
Why?
wouldn't be talking about anything with the dock, other than the fact that there's multiples of them, but, yeah.
I think it got shorter and wider when I redecked it.
So what about the docks?
Does the
Well,
floating dock stay in all winter, or do you remove the freestanding?
It stays.
Okay.
There's barrels under it with air in it, so.
I can also add that we don't have to wrap this all up in one
Oh,
night.
no.
We can come up with the commission's concerns, you can direct me to look into whatever you want me to look into, so that I can come back with more specific information, or if you have any ideas or anything like that, we can look into things.
But it's very complex, there's a lot of issues.
Right, and as I said, I was trying to start out with the
Yeah.
thing that was most apparent, is the place to start.
I understand.
Um,
If we start by, I take the dock off, that's a good start.
Good start.
Are there regulations on removing it?
What's that?
there aren't really regulations on removing it, as long as the commission is, like, if we
It's
issue an
not-
enforcement order saying you need to remove the dock, we would probably put something in there saying that you can't use heavy machinery to do it.
Oh, okay.
It's, I can pick it up. It's not planted.
No, it's not on.
I can pick it up.
What are the commission's thoughts on the retaining wall?
I think, one thing about that wall, it's not our department, but anything taller than, I can't remember, 24 or 23 inches, something like that, is supposed to have something on top so people don't fall over. Again, it's a different department, but,
I understand.
yeah,
Right now, there's a rope, but I think maybe something more substantial.
yeah, I don't know what's calls for it, it's
What
building
ab-
department.
Unless any other commissioner has thoughts, what about an assessment of the retaining wall
Right.
for A, structural soundness,
Integrity.
and B, for fit to the regulations? So you have somebody put something together essentially that says, I inspected this retaining wall and it is structurally sound and it meets Kingston's wetland regulations because there's no place else you could have put it further away from the resource area, and it's providing a benefit to the resource area by minimizing stormwater flow into Smelt Pond.
And that's at least in part of the rationale. for the-
Helena, may I?
Yes, please, Jim.
Hi. I apologize, I wasn't able to make it to the site meeting. How tall is this wall that we're talking about? Because there's no requirement for permitting on retaining walls until you hit a certain height, because, the hydrostatic pressure on the backside of the wall doesn't become a toppling force until you get to a certain height and you have a certain amount of water in the soil. So from that perspective, how high is this wall that we're talking about?
It's roughly double the 4-foot standard in KWP. I don't know the exact height of it, but it's significantly taller than 6
8-ish?
feet. It's gotta be, I would say, at least 8 feet tall.
And there was no permit pulled for this with the building department?
No.
That is correct.
So
Let me pull up the photos just so we can have some visual.
No, it's fine, because my comments are gonna be generalized, right? I don't feel that we're the people to talk about this, right? I think that this is a building department issue. Whether or not anything else could be done is a whole different point, but as far as us requiring an engineer stamp to say that the wall was designed properly with the proper counter action to prevent toppling, that's really not something that I think we should be getting into. But I think that, you know, the building department probably should. So I think that I would be more comfortable directing, you know, this back to Jason's department and let him move forward with it. I think that we can, you know, provide our comments and do our thing when it comes down to wetland impact and whether or not there was anything else that could be done, and we can move forward with that part of it. But I think the first part of it is best if we don't weigh into that conversation and let the department that controls that.
Want me to speak to that?
control
Yeah, Matt, why don't you
Hey,
address
When I
that?
did it,
Just
Hold
one
on,
second,
hold on
we'll
one
let
second.
Matt just
No
respond,
problem.
and then with Shirley, you
yeah,
respond to Matt.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's no issue with the commission looking into that, because if you were permitting it, you would want engineering on it, you would want to see that it was designed
Right.
appropriately. But there's no issue with us deflecting that in an enforcement order and saying that while we want the explanation of how it fits KWPR in retro, we want to see it permitted through the building department, assuming
I
that that
would
would
find
happen,
that.
right? You know, you're assuming if it's gonna get permitted through the building department, that it would need the same type of a, you know, study, and we wouldn't be necessarily requiring it directly. Does that make sense?
I would be fine with us as long as we're not the one providing the language that's there. I think it's important that the permit process be done through the town, and Jason require all the sections, chapter 16 requirements that are there, and that's gonna be, you know, something that's reviewed by an engineer and stamped, you know, saying that it's a safe wall.
Right,
So,
right, but I don't think we need an engineer to tell us that an 8-foot wall doesn't meet the 4-foot requirement under our regs.
No, that's
or
not
it's
what he was
50.
No.
saying. He
Yeah.
was saying that, you know, us requiring a structural assessment of it is outside of our lane, which is
Absolutely,
debatable,
yeah.
but it's
No, I
fine.
think it's
Because basically what we would be doing in this situation is saying, fine, it's permitted, but if it needs a permit from the building department, then it should get one from the building department. So I hadn't thought of that aspect of it, that an 8-foot retaining wall likely also needs a building permit, so that's a good point.
And I know you
well, it
wanted
does,
to-
and they might require it being taken out if it's under design. So if the engineer's not willing to stamp it, I expect that Jason's gonna call it on work, but we're not gonna speak for that, right? We're gonna make the recommendation that that process be completed first, and if they're okay, then we can say, okay, well, building department said that this is structurally sound, and they were able to achieve their level of diligence that was needed to, you know, issue the permit and close it out, on this one, so, you know, we can take that at face evidence that this is something that can remain and it's not a safety issue. You know, if it's 8 feet tall, I understand Dot's comment now, but this is definitely something that I think we might be a little bit in front of it, but it doesn't mean that we can't do lateral. It's just that I think we need to point to that before we do anything else and say, yeah, we can grant you a permit in retro, because we don't know what the course of action that the building department's gonna take on this. And clearly, we don't wanna get in front of them and say that it's okay if they say it's gotta be taken out, and then we have to talk about, you know, all the things that we have to do to take, you know,
Madam
take the
Chair,
risk to the wetland out of the removal process and the rebuild process. So I think that it's important to kind of press pause on that.
All right, thanks, Jim. I just want to let the homeowner respond for 1 second before we comment further, because I know you had something to say on this.
It was, like I said before, I went about it the wrong way, but the second I started working on that, it stopped runoff into the lake. And like I said, I didn't ask permission, it didn't occur to me. It was like protecting the lake was my instinct. Now,
Colleen, if
for
I
me to
could
change
just-
things, what,
Oh, he's calling from the, comes out of the speaker
did he
up
say
there.
something?
But he's on
go
there.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were just, I just wanted to respond to that.
Okay,
Just-
to change things now, it would be, I mean, that's disturbing again. Maybe not in the best way.
Right, that's not what
I
we're
know I'm
gonna
not
do.
God,
Right.
that I can't just do whatever I want, but my instinct was to protect the lake.
Yeah,
I just went about it the wrong way.
Jim,
You
I
can't imagine how
recognized
sorry
Dot
I am.
before. You wanted to comment again, so Dot, did you have a?
what Jim said would also apply to the concrete driveway or parking area. Because it's a similar situation,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think is the driveway more than 100 feet? Or no?
I don't think there's any part of the property that's out of jurisdiction, because there's also wetlands on the other side, sort of behind where the truck is in the picture here.
And Jim, did you have something else?
Yeah, just to clarify, all right, so my comments are not directed, as to whether or not this could be done, or that I would, vote against a permit to do something like this. This is just comments on how it exists now. So whether or not it's helping, it's not lost on me, but however, the process still has to be what the process is required to be. So we can only comment on one part of it, and that's the wetlands impact, because that's the one thing that we're here to adjudicate on. The rest of it comes from, there's building processes that have to be followed, and then if it hasn't, then we need to make sure that, we're allowing those processes to control where they need to control. And what we're discussing here is something that needs to be controlled by that process. The wetland benefit doesn't trump structural and the building side of it. Right? Minimum standards for life and safety is what the building code is all about. So we got to let that go, and we're on the side of it.
All right, and Brian?
I can definitely hear what Jim is saying. I think we need to know whether or not this wall is structurally sound, because if an engineer comes back and says this thing's gonna fall apart in 10 years, and that changes the conversation completely. As a homeowner has just mentioned, I tend to agree, if we remove it at this point, it may cause more problems than leaving it
That's
alone.
what I'm
So if an
thinking, even though I
engineer
did the
says-
wrong thing.
If the engineer says it's fine, it's a great wall, there's no problem there, then we can revisit whether or not his construction is detrimental to the wetlands and what we might do to fix that problem, or if its removal will make things worse. But if an engineer comes back and says this, this is not done properly and it's already cracking or falling apart, then we have a much bigger problem. I don't think we know that. I think it would be nice to get someone out there to assess, as Matt suggested a while ago, whether or not the wall is structurally sound, whether or not building it was the best course of action to protect the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have an expert advice for us to base our decision on.
And I know you wanted to respond to that.
No, I'm fine.
You okay?
I understand where you guys are coming from.
I mean, I tend to think that
I just think
It did-
disturbing
it
it
did what
now
you
could
intended
be
it to do.
worse.
One person at a time.
Oh, sorry.
I tend to agree that it did what you intended it to do. That your intention was in the
The
right
runoff
place.
is stopped.
Yeah, and it may have been the best course of action. And if an engineer comes in and says that, then great, then we can move on. If an engineer comes in and says it's gonna fall apart, then we have a whole other problem to deal with.
Mhm.
Do you have anything else to
As-
say on this?
No,
So, I mean, I think the course of action that we should pursue is order enforcement to take care of the docks, to get those into compliance, and then I don't know what the steps are to get an engineer out there, how we go about doing that. But I think those are the two things we need to do, hopefully tonight.
So on the, sort of side of what Jim was saying, if we have if we issue an enforcement order that says that you need to have the wall permitted through the building department by a certain date, and then we regroup after that, it's just sort of a tricky legal enforcement pathway where you're telling them you need to get a permit from a different department
That
by
might
this
not.
date, and if you don't, we're gonna fine you. It's like, it's okay, it's just not.
Well, if you did the engineering thing and you did it in conjunction with what you were referencing about an alternatives analysis, I think that would be more informative, because to your point, it might have great integrity, but still not really accommodate our wetland regs in an acceptable way.
Yeah.
I understand the regs, like I said, I eliminated all runoff from my driveway going to the lake. Now it dissipates towards the woods.
No, and
But I
again, we
know
know
I
your
didn't get
heart was in the
permission.
right place, but the point is, if there's an alternative, if there's a better design that can accommodate the wetland stipulations and take care of the runoff, then that's a win-win.
I'm not sure.
Matt, can you help me with this?
Just the way the wetlands regulations work, it's always on the applicant to prove that what they're doing is the least detrimental to the wetlands. So
Alright.
if you were coming to us for permitting now, you would have somebody prepare something that would design it and show it to us and explain in the narrative that
Yeah,
this is the best
The
possible thing in
part
the
I
situation.
bypassed,
Yeah.
but unfortunately,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
So that's just sort of getting
But
back
some
to
people have
there.
been there, I didn't dig anything out of the water.
Engineering architect.
I'm sorry, I just can't accept comment from there. If you would like to comment, please come up and tell us who you are, and
I
we'll be glad to
appreciate
hear you.
Kalina, I might offer that, let me think a little more on some of the dock stuff. Let's not jump to any issuance right now. Let's maybe recommend that the homeowner reach out to the building department and look into getting that wall permitted in retro, and we revisit this at the early September meeting. Is that? Or maybe even the
Does that give you
late
time?
September meeting. I mean, this is not an immediate enforcement issue, in my opinion, where if we don't take action very soon, there's a
There'll be a
further
detrimental
detriment to the
effect.
resource area. Everything there is
I didn't make,
stable, you know.
something that's gonna get worse over time. I think it's gonna get better, better
again,
over
not to
time.
pi-
But I know I went about it the wrong way. Believe me, it's making me sick to my stomach
I'm sure it
that I
is.
did this.
Drag this
So, get rid of the duck dock.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we
ASAP.
do things the right way.
It's not, I can pick it up myself and get it
Okay,
out of there.
but again, not to pile it on, but you mentioned the question about a septic system, so there's that?
But that's not our
Yeah,
business.
no, I
apparently there
understand.
isn't, apparently there isn't
It's-
one, so according to
Okay.
the homeowner, there isn't a septic system, so
It's
that's.
been there as long as
Selena, may I?
I've been alive. Is that-
I'm sorry
That's
to,
Jim asking to be heard.
yes, Jim?
All right. So I think this is really tough, because there's a lot of things
Yeah.
that potentially we could talk about, right? But when you start talking about and contemplating the dates, it goes back 30 years already to, things that are pretty recent, in my mind at least, right? So when it comes down to septic, right? Septic should have been discussed when they did the second floor addition and they added the bed, right? That's when flow technically would have been increased, and whatever the Title V regulations were back then would have come into play, which is why we have to, as a board, we need to contemplate these things fully when we're taking these things into account, because there's no way to go back in time and go through these things, because whatever was allowed back then was allowed, and we can't pretend that it wasn't, right? So I'm
Jim, sorry, just for the record, and I'm not saying there wasn't, but from what I could see from the building permit record, it wasn't an addition. It was raising the roof of a bedroom that was already on the second floor.
right, but.
So that
but
might
goes
change,
into
just making the point, because that
regulations
might
about-
change how they go about reviewing,
Right.
Yeah,
cesspools capacity back
Likely what
then.
it was is, Matt, the way that it works is based on height, right? So if there's no livable space in the second floor, increasing the the roof height for something that was being used as a bedroom, but wasn't technically a bedroom, was making it a legal bedroom, which would have been, you know, the trigger point, right? So
Okay.
when it comes down to some of these things, these should have been discussed 30 years ago. If the applicant comes in and wants to increase living space and it's gonna increase flow, that's when we get another shot to, you know, get the, you know, the effluent essentially out of the water. But just because he put a retaining wall in, it's not something that I'm going to advocate that we try to, you know, get our fingers into every piece of this. And I'm the guy who sticks up, you know, really loudly against, you know, just letting these things exist when somebody wants to do an upgrade, right? So from that perspective, I think it's important to kind of, you know, keep our eye on the focus, which, you know, brought us here, which was the retaining wall, right?
Yeah, Jim, I don't think anybody was looking to do that. It would be
No, I know,
if
but
there
when
was
we
a
talk
septic,
about it-
it would be if there was a septic system installed recently that wasn't permitted, it would be something the commission would be
Yeah,
concerned
but
about.
there isn't, right?
Exactly, there isn't, so that was, the answer was no, there is no septic system, there's a cesspool that's pre-existing.
Well, yeah, I know, but we're discussing it, right? So.
It was a question from a commissioner
I know, just let me-
about a septic system, because there's no septic plans on record, so.
Okay, just let me go and then I'll wrap it up, right? So when we have these types of situations, there's lots of things on these old developed parcels that we could probably look at, but realistically, we're here for one thing, which is the retaining wall. The retaining wall is not a permitted wall from the building department. I think that's the first stop. If they say that, you know, that they're willing to permit it in retro because it was designed properly and it's not a risk, or, you know, that they can bring it into compliance without tearing it down, then that's one thing. We know what's gonna be the forward action, meaning that they're okay with leaving it, so we can decide whether or not we're okay with leaving it. And I don't, if it's keeping water from running off, I'm not the guy who's gonna say, take it out just because you didn't do it right. I'm gonna say, let's make sure that whatever we're discussing goes through the building department first, comes out the other side, we know the course of action that they're going to require, and then we can add on what requirements we're gonna require. But I think that as a board, we're still due to talk about the docks at some point. I don't know if we, you know, this meeting is the one that, you know, where we start talking about the docks and require pulling out. I think it was communicated that there's, you know, we shouldn't have two docks, they're oversized. Some of this is just gonna be grandfather stuff. It sounds like he's willing to pull out the second dock. Swim platforms, you know, versus dock. Okay, well, a lot of these places have swim platforms, and I'm not the guy who's gonna try to make people take out swim platforms that are only there usually, you know, a couple months during the year, right? Especially when it's been there forever, if we have, you know, historic aerial imagery saying that it's there. So what I would ask is that we just push this, let's talk about it, you know, what's on hand once Jason's department comes back, and let's make sure that we're talking about things that we can fully discuss and come to a resolution with whatever we decide as it comes up. So let's focus on the retaining wall. It's not ready for us to discuss, I think, and it's best to table it until it is. I would make a motion that we move it, we postpone the discussion until the second meeting in September, so that we can discuss it at that time after the building department makes their judgment on what the course of action has to be for the building.
So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the
Before we get to that motion,
Yeah.
I have a word. So I did not attend the group sidewalk, but I did go to the sidewalk after the fact. I was there about 6:30 PM, and we walked the site. I took photographs. Before we make a motion to move forward, I want to give the homeowner clear direction on what we're expecting him to come back with at that meeting, because we've said a lot of things. So let's give him some clear direction before we move on to the next meeting.
So Buzz, my motion was that we table this discussion until we find out what the building department's gonna require from the non-compliant construction, right? Because if they say it's gotta come down because they don't like what they see, then that's one thing. If they say that, you know, that they reviewed the engineer's plan and, you know, they did what they needed to do to confirm that it was, you know, per the design, and they're okay with it and they'll issue a permit, then that's a path. But I don't think that I'm comfortable with really going anywhere beyond that because we don't know what the outcome of that process is gonna be and we can't. speak
I'm
to it.
not, Jim, I'm not disputing that, I'm just saying, let's make sure he understands what we're asking him to do, number one. Number two, there's more issues than just the retaining wall. He has a pretty good-sized concrete driveway with, I would say, more than half of it is on the neighbor's property. So that has to be dealt with as well. So I think we need to tag in notifying the neighbor on this issue and/or getting him to come and/or a representative and/or someone to say that that driveway, if and when we get to the point where it's permittable, that it can stay, because right now it's on someone else's property and we can't permit something on someone else's property.
Right, so Buzz, that's a zoning issue, right? So it sounds like.
No, it's gonna become our issue because it's part of the runoff, the impervious surface issue.
But it's also over a property line, which makes it a zoning issue, right? Because your driveway has to be so far off the property line, right? That's one of
No, the driveway can go right to the property line.
Right, but if it's over, then it's clearly over, right?
Oh, it's way over.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that there's a boundary and it's over it, so therefore. there's an-
Again, I wanna give the applicant clear direction. I'm not fighting with you about whose jurisdiction it is. It's gonna have to be dealt with, so I don't wanna do the wall, then get that resolved, then do the driveway, and then get that resolved, and then do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing.
May I,
I buy into that
say something?
100%.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask,
But they're both for, no, hang on, Colleen, because technically we have a motion, right? We're not supposed to be debating the motion.
we're still debating the motion.
I'm asking
I
for
would
a
like to
friendly
have-
amendment.
hear from Matt on this 1 second.
Yeah,
We give some clear direction.
just getting at what Jim said a
I
minute.
agree with that 100%, Bruce, that we need a clear direction. And what I'm saying is that both of those issues goes back to Jason's. So let's direct this whole situation, the whole conversation with whatever shouldn't be there that is there, back to Jason to decide what he's gonna require from it so that we can weigh in on what the protections are for the wetland in whatever course of action comes up.
Matt?
Ready? Okay. On what Jim just said a minute ago, I brought it up earlier that this part of this work happened on an abutting landowner's property, and Tom says they have an agreement, which is great. Just the way the permitting process works on the wetlands side, we're not gonna permit anything, whether in retro or otherwise, without having the actual landowner sign off on it, and that's come up on a lot of other problems. So it may or may not be a zoning issue, but for the commission, it's a wetlands issue in terms of something that was done without a permit that needs permitting in retro at a minimum, and if that's going to happen, we would need the abutting landowner to sign off on that. And to the other part that Jim said, that's, I think, what we're suggesting right now is to, and we have the homeowner right here, we can ask him, are you willing to go to Jason's office and talk to him and have him come out to your property if necessary? And, you know, if Jason asks you for an engineer's certification on this or whatever it needs, are you gonna do that? So that way, when we come back to discuss the totality of everything in late September, we have hopefully some answers on that. And if he needs an extension because things are taking time with whatever he needs to get a building permit or something, then we can bump it down the road a little bit longer. Like I said, there's no immediate need for stabilization or restoration right now. The site is stable, so we just need everything to be dealt with and permitted. So I think, to Buzz's point, maybe we ask the homeowner right now, because me going to Jason and saying, hey, you need to go look into 44 Rabbit Road's retaining wall it's not gonna happen. So I think what we need is the homeowner to say, yes, I'm willing to go do that. Otherwise, the commission probably does need to require that they get structural and all of that, and then we can notify the building department, and if they want to do something about it, they can.
Do we want to, we have a motion floating around out there.
It's not seconded.
It's not seconded?
No.
So we want to table that motion? The motion is merely to continue till the end of September, middle of September.
Yeah, I'm willing to second the motion, but I also agree with Buzz's point to make sure the homeowners understands what it is we're looking for, that we'd like you to go to the building department and request them to do a permit in retro for the retaining wall and see what they say about it and bring that information back to us. And number two, to get with your neighbor to discuss how you're going to approach the, whatever material, driveway, sheds, anything else that's over the line, and whether or not you wanna seek a permanent retro for the driveway that's on their property, so somehow both of you would have to do that together, I would imagine, because driveway's on both properties.
They would have to at least sign off on
Yeah.
whatever permit application they're filing, they would have to sign off as one of the landowners.
So there's two things that we would like you to do before we talk about this again in mid-September. Does that make sense?
Yes, could it be in something I can have in writing? So I can revert back to this when I talk to
Yes,
my neighbor?
yeah, just something in writing that they understand that.
No, it's something in writing
Right.
from you
Can you
guys, so
send
that
him
way I
an
ask
email?
Oh, you
the
want something from us to show them?
Actual, yeah, so I don't, rather than hearsay, if I show them, so it's not, I don't make a mistake, they don't make a mistake.
Matt, would your staff report be of any assistance?
I think he's
Or any-
acting like a
Any
specific.
information that you've already assessed?
I mean, I think basically basically what we're looking for is their understanding, and
I know what you guys are looking for, but for me to go to Frank Tirico, it would be better if I have something in writing.
Right.
Say, Frank, we need to come to an agreement on this, 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 and this, instead of me trying to remember it from right now. Something, if you guys could give me something in writing, then I
Can you
can
shoot an
ask
email?
Frank, and we can discuss it.
Send them an email.
I can email you with
Oh, that'd be, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to continue this matter until the second meeting in September. Motion has been seconded by Brian. Want to vote on that? Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Colina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes, and we'll continue this discussion at the second commissioners' meeting in September.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Okay.
What does it
But
say,
off the
24th?
record
The
now,
date is-
September 24th.
everybody that came out,
The
do
date
they
is
see
September
the water
24th.
does not run into the lake anymore?
Okay, well,
I
thank
know,
you.
I'm a little maybe too proud of that, but that is,
Your heart
That
It
was
was,
in
it
the
wasn't
right
raining, no
place.
comment, but it was
No.
flat.
All right.
thank you guys very much.
We'll see you then.
Was that his channel?
All right, so we,
I get to-
I didn't get a chance to apologize to that lady. You know, she was just trying to be helpful, but,
Should be back.
okay.
No.
All right, so we have a hearing. We want to move on to
Yeah, one
hearings.
landing road.
What's the hearing?
Hearings on One Landing Road.
Oh, that's pretty.
All right. It's 7:24, and I reopen a hearing for the proposed construction of an addition and deck to the existing single-family dwelling within 200-foot riverfront area to the Jones River and buffer zones to the wetland resource areas. Do you have any comments, Matt?
Sure, yes. This has gone through a couple of iterations here, a couple of meetings. We did receive revised plans August 19th. The updated plan specifies 3/8-inch deck spacing for a pervious condition. It states that the dry well is sized for a 1-inch storm, and it provides calculations to back that up for the volume of the dry well and stone for the downspouts to be sufficient volume to contain the 1-inch storm off the roof. It does specify on the plan that all existing downspouts of the dwelling are to be tied into the dry well system. Technically, it does not specify that the addition downspouts, if there are any, would be tied in, but that's up to the commission if they want to get into the weeds on that. The plan correctly shows the pre and post impervious surface calculations. The existing is listed at 34.3% and proposed is 40%, which is an increase of 5.7%, with the existing already way over the KWPR 15% limit. The administrative record regarding impervious coverage has been sufficiently updated. There is still a significant increase in coverage, but the commission may accept that the downspout infiltration as mitigation. The commission may accept the downspout infiltration as mitigation if they feel it is sufficient. The updated plan shows infiltration of a 1-inch storm, which I get is rather standard. If anybody knows any differently, they can speak up. I noted that a formal variance request for increasing the percent impervious coverage, which is already above 15%, would still be required, and any OOCs issued should state whether such a variance is granted. Beyond that, I have no issue with anything I saw, and the commission could issue orders of conditions for this project.
Matt, can
Okay.
I have a comment when Jim's done.
no, Buzz, you can go first.
You know what,
So-
could we just see if there's a representative or the applicant here who has comment would like to make before we have the commission weigh in?
I don't see
see
anybody, and it may
anybody.
be that this is the third or maybe fourth hearing on this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they feel like they finally have it pretty
All
well
right,
wrapped
then.
up, maybe.
I'm ready for the commissioners. Was it Jim first and then Buzz? Jim?
Buzz, I'll go. So the question is, Matt, 1-inch storms, where are we pulling 1-inch from? Just, I mean, from the design codes that I know, I mean, it's probably 4 or 5-inch designs for rainwater. I just don't know what the stormwater regulations are. Is 1-inch accurate for the design criteria? Because
Yeah,
that 1-inch storm is basically a 15-minute heavy rain, so.
I know, and that's, I sort of questioned that, and I asked an engineer friend if it was standard, because there really is no stormwater regulation for single-family housing. And he said 1-inch was pretty standard for this type of thing. So obviously, when we think of things with stormwater and when we design BMPs and all of that, we're thinking about 100-year storms and all of that. But I think for residential, I can't say, yes, it's sufficient, this is great mitigation. That's what they proposed. If you want to look into it more, we can do that. But, because if it's not sufficient, then it's just going to all run off anyways, as it is now. But there is a decent amount of distance between this site and the wetlands. Unfortunately, most of that is on a slope, but it's a slope with native soils on it. I did want to specify, I forget, because it's been several hearings on this, that we did find landscape debris dumped on the hill outside of the fenced yard, including grass clippings, and we'd require that that get pulled out of there and that not continue as any part of any issued permit.
Okay, Buzz, did you have something?
Yeah, so a couple things. So this is when I get aggravated that we're parsing words here with this existing downspouts. I was very clear at the last hearing that all downspouts would be tied in. There seems to be a pattern with certain people that we see. I was crystal clear about what we were looking for, and everyone agreed that that's what we were looking for, so I'm definitely not accepting this plan with that language on it, number one. I think that's my biggest issue. The 1-inch doesn't bother me. That's quite a bit of rain on a residential structure. And then thirdly, we should tag on our newly drafted standard, if it's not already standard, the part about using, natural herbicide. I forget what we call that, but Brian, help me out here. The thing about the, soil.
Slow release.
Is that what it was?
Well, there was slow release.
I think
No,
it
it's
specifies
like
like
that.
organic.
Right, organic.
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
organic, yeah. So we should make that, this would be a good one to put that on, and again, I think we voted earlier, or a couple meetings ago, to make that part of our standard. Any kind of order of conditions that we're issuing going forward, because all of that product is available, readily available now for people, and there's no reason not to put it on here. It's not like we're creating a hardship.
I think we had, I agree, we should reword and I need to look into things a little bit better, because I was just in a meeting earlier talking about, in certain situations, how organic is not necessarily better when you're talking about runoff into a wetland, because either way, the nitrogen, phosphorus is gonna cause bloom. But we do have, yeah, so I might need, still a
Yeah,
work in
I don't
progress,
know-
we may
I
have to
don't know
tighten that
what-
up, but we can definitely add what we have in on here, which includes the restriction on chemical fertilizers,
Yeah,
herbicides, pesticides, things like that.
Yeah, that's the one, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember what we talked about, but that's my point, and I definitely want that language changed, that it would say all downspouts, they need to remove the word existing.
Buzz.
So all,
I hear you 100% on everything that you said there. That's one of the more accurate things that anyone's ever said in one of these meetings. And I think that there may be a way right now that we can issue the permit with special conditions stating that all downspouts, including any downspouts on the addition, be tied into the dry well. I would have preferred that that be on the plan, especially I forgot how specific your instructions were, or I probably would have added that. I probably would have reached out to them right away, but with it, we have two options. We can kick it off for another meeting and make them fix it and come back, or we can just put it in as a special condition and they have to do it anyways.
yeah, whatever the pleasure of the rest of the board is, I'm fine either way.
Any more comments from the board? Does anyone in the public have any comments on this? Can I hear a motion? Is the motion to either approve the,
Do you want to close?
a motion to close the hearing? Thank you. Is there a
Welcome.
second?
Second.
All right, the hearing is closed. Do I have a motion to approve the application? And
Well, we
issue-
gotta vote to close the hearing first.
Yeah, thanks. Dot?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is yes. Buzz?
Yes,
Marilyn?
Yes,
Brian?
Yes.
Great, that motion carries. The hearing is closed. Do I have now a motion to either approve the application and issue orders of conditions, or deny the motion? Or
this is
deny
an
the
NOI,
application?
correct? Matt?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent with the stipulation that the word is stricken from the plan existing and that all downspouts in the order of conditions, it clearly states all downspouts, existing and new, will be tied into the new dry well system, and that we, attach our new, yeah, I'm gonna struggle now, so
No
somebody
chemical,
jump in.
non-chemical.
the new
Herbicide.
language.
Yeah, the new lawn, the new,
Lawn chemical language.
yeah, that's it. I'm getting tired tonight, so I apologize. That's my motion.
Buzz, friendly amendment, please.
Go ahead.
Would you require a new plan with the updated language for the record?
Yes, I would like that amendment, thank you.
Are you, Buzz, are you positive on that,
No, I'm okay moving forward, I'm just saying.
but you do
So
want them to
what Jim's
update
saying
the
is-
plan, because
Yeah,
technically, we
update
could just
the
do a
plan.
special condition and they can't get a
Correct.
COC unless they satisfy it.
Correct, that would be my motion, thank you.
So you do want the actual plan to be updated with that language?
Yeah, before, I mean, they have time before we sign it that we can attach the new plan. That would be my motion.
I'll second.
That was really messy, I apologize.
was it seconded?
Jim just seconded.
Seconded.
Does everyone understand the motion?
Yeah.
Yep.
And did you second that?
I did, yep.
So, all right. There's a motion made by Buzz, seconded by Jim. And we have Dot,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Clean as yes. Buzz,
Yes,
Marilyn,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
and that motion also passes. Thank you very much. All right, what's next?
15 Bagnell.
Where are we going? 15 Bagnell? Okay, great.
Connie Pooler.
Kevin Pooler, 15 Bagnell Street.
All right. Just hold on a second while I pull up the paper. All right. Do you have anything to say on this, Matt?
Sure, we did this one last year, unpermitted vegetative clearing within jurisdiction. This is the one where they had the vegetable garden and kind of a wood chipped area. And they were allowed to keep the vegetable garden through harvest and then remove everything from the area. And it would be determined whether any future restoration or conservation posts would be needed. So we hit that 1 year mark in early August and did a site visit on August 15th of this year. It documented the site is not sufficiently stabilized. Let's say about 50 or 60% of the site is still unvegetated. And where the vegetation is most dense in the area of the former vegetable garden, it consists, with few exceptions, of what I call loam weeds, which basically is where the garden was removed and the dirt was spread out. You get the weeds that pop up out of there. So there was a little bit of the native wetland plants kicking in from the edges, but for the most part, the site does need further work, whether that's conservation posts and some seed, or whether you're looking for further things. It needs something. We documented a pile of grass clippings that have been dumped sort of beyond the wood chips into the wetland, and the homeowner said they would get that out of the way before this meeting, and keep those out of there going forward.
We have the picture.
Cool, awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The site needs further attention. You might need conservation posts to prevent encroachment, and some form of wetland and buffer zone restoration is necessary. Whatever that is up to the commission.
Folks, you want to just talk to the commission about this?
Yeah, we pulled the gardens, and I moved it to the other side of the house, plenty far away, and we left it alone, because, we just assumed we wanted it to grow back, period, leave it alone, wetlands and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and, well, the center is, there's some grass weeds and stuff like that growing out of it. I didn't go in there, because I just assumed we could let it all grow back in, and the trees do what they do and all that stuff. I can easily go in there and clean that up. And oversee, do whatever I need to do plantings, anything.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any comments from the commission? Questions, Dot?
Matt, would he be best to remove the loam weeds and reseed with a special mix, or just seed it through them?
That's a tough thing to answer. It would absolutely need to be cut so that you're removing your seed source from all of that. Some of them are probably perennials, so it might be kind of tough to get it to establish over time. But yeah, I thought the site was going to revegetate based on what I saw in 2023, because you already, when I was there, had red maple seedlings popping up out of the wood chips, and just this year I didn't see anything beyond fresh seedlings that looked about the same size. So it just didn't really do it. But it could be as simple as throwing an appropriate seed mix down. Maybe you're either hand pulling the lawn weed area out, or trimming it and removing the thatch off it, so you remove the seeds and seeding in between. And it's a different kind of site, because I think there's enough tree cover there that most of the time when you want that cover crop for the seeds, it's because of heat and sun needing that protection. I'm not sure that would be needed in this case. You may be better off removing them. Yeah.
He probably needs some help in choosing which to remove.
Right.
I have a comment when it's my turn.
Yes, certainly. Buzz?
Yeah, so it's been my experience, and again, I'm not arguing with Matt, but I can guarantee you if he gets 3 or 4 pounds of that conservation mix and spread that around out there, that this time next year, you won't see any of those weeds, those little weeds, that stuff, that conservation mix just will take off like wildfire on that soil.
Okay.
And don't fall down when you see the price of that seed go down.
Just gonna ask that, where do you get it?
Matt can give you the resource for that.
Thank you.
And then I think we should require three conservation posts across the back of the property there. My opinion.
Yeah. I'd support that motion.
All right.
Is that a motion?
That sounds like a
Make a
motion and a
motion to-
second, but it's a
Well,
little vagish.
only if other people are done commenting. I
That
don't
sounds
want,
good.
I don't want to cut anyone off.
I think it's easy enough to issue an enforcement order requiring 3 conservation posts and a wetland seed mix, and setting the same type of situation where you're saying, we're gonna check it in a year. And so I think the best way to go about it probably is to set a deadline for when the work could be done, and state that the department's going to set a 1-year period to check on the site after we're confirmed that the work is done, right?
When is the
Yeah,
best
well-
time to sow that seed mix?
Wait a couple weeks and then start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait for the 90-degree days to be done, please.
Yeah, and we're really coming into the best time of year to spread that mix. I would say, you know, second week of September, that'll give them time to get the posts in and then put the seed out. It's readily available. They'll ship it right to you, to your door. You don't even need to go get it. And then just spread it out.
Colleen and Matt?
Yeah, please, Jim.
All right, so do we need to say anything about pulling the weeds that aren't supposed to be there, Matt? Just so that it's all written in there, and he's got the ability to do whatever he needs to do to get what we're asking him to do done?
Didn't Buzz just say he didn't think it was necessary?
In my opinion, I think you find just the seed what's there, that wetland
Taking a
seed.
choke it out.
Yeah, 2 years from now, you won't even be able to walk back there.
All right.
I would say leave it up to them if they want to pull some of that bigger stuff in the middle there out, or mow it down or something to give it a better chance. Then basically what's gonna happen is in a year, you're gonna require that the site looks like it's very much on the way to stabilizing and revegetating, and if it's not, then they'll need to do a little more work. So I think they're gonna
Okay.
want it to look as best as
Yeah,
they can, so.
that's fine. I'm okay with just having them weed whack it.
Yeah, I don't think we have to specify it either way. I think it's up to
Yeah.
them, and we wanna see it established.
Yeah, just cut it flush, seed it, and put the post in, and we'll see you in a year.
If you're gonna cut it, you should pull the thatch, so you don't leave the weeds.
That would be best, yeah, I think. Cool.
So the motion is to install 3 conservation posts.
Yeah, motion is we're gonna issue an enforcement order to install 3 conservation posts and apply an appropriate wetland and buffer seed mix, and
By-
to notify us.
Deadline.
And to notify us when that's complete, and it's supposed to be complete by a set date, and that
November 1st.
we're setting a 1-year, you know, as we did with the last enforcement order we sent out a year ago, we're gonna say we're gonna check on this in a year to assess.
Can we ask the people if they're okay with the end of September as a get it done date?
Is the end of September okay with you?
Sure.
If we ask you to do these things?
Of course.
Okay.
Can I,
Just have a few questions.
Sorry, before we move forward, we just did 3 of these at the last meeting, and we gave them all an October 31st deadline, I would think, for this one. Let's give them October 31st to get that all done and notify us, and we'll set the 1 year, basically be October 31st of next year, that we would do a compliance check on that.
Okay.
Okay, there is a motion, but do you want to speak to it before we seek a
We
second?
don't know what a conservation post is.
We don't know what the posts are, and we don't know where to get the seed.
Okay,
So I can get you the resources for the seed, I can give you a hand with that, and conservation posts are a 4x4. It's minimum of 4 feet long, minimum of 2 feet in the ground, 2 feet above ground, and usually you kind of cut it at an angle, and you get a conservation placard. It basically says conservation area, no work beyond this point.
Okay, so you
As a
set it on-
convenience, we sell the placards here for $2.50 each, and the posts, you just go to any, lumber supplier, and
Sure.
all you need is a 4-foot post. It can be longer, it can be taller, it can go in the ground deeper, but it just has to be minimum 2 feet down, minimum 2 feet up. Have that placard on it, and they're maintained in perpetuity. So basically, that means that nobody's ever gonna go over in that area and build anything, dig anything.
My grandkids go over there,
They
is that
play.
right?
But they can go walk over
They
there and
play over there.
play with
Okay.
bugs or whatever, but
So
I'd
we-
recommend keeping them out of there until it all establishes densely with
Yeah, I
vegetation.
know.
Right.
The other question I wanted to, we were at one point going to try to plant native plants, but my husband just wants this nonsense over with.
Oh, I
so-
think that the
Just
seeds will
let it
take
grow
care of that
natural.
for you. All
That's what
right,
the seeds will do.
that's what the seeds are for, so.
Yeah.
All right,
Seeds
so
will be
there's,
the plants.
there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'm gonna take a vote on that. Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Kalina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay. So that motion passes, and you will get it in writing, so you'll know just what to do.
You'll get what's called an enforcement order, which will be a piece of paper that, yeah, you got one before, but basically this one, it will require the work to be done, but it also acts as the permit to do the work. So don't bother doing anything until you get that.
Okay.
All right, and now, last year, you wanted to bring in your crops before we did any, how'd you do?
We did
We did
good, we did good.
Had a good
We got a
season.
lot,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
well, I'm glad to hear that.
yeah. Thank you so
You
much.
take care.
You guys have
Have a
been
good night.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about 71 Elm Street? We ready to go there?
Yeah.
All right, let me just pull it.
So, similarly to the last one, we had a notice of violation in 2023 for vegetative and soil disturbance along the driveway at 71 Elm, which runs very close to a wetland edge. Commission determined last year that we would schedule a site visit in 1 year in order for us to assess site regrowth and the potential need for restoration. The homeowner was instructed to fill any low areas using only the fill removed from the site, using hand tools only, and to remove any clumps of dirt that were thrown over the rock wall and any fill piled up on the crowns of trees. Wood chips were to be used as a stabilizer where necessary in a thin layer. Property owner let us know shortly thereafter that the work was complete except for the wood chip placement, asked about chip sources. We just did a site visit August 15th of this year. The site has sufficiently stabilized, vigorous regrowth was observed along the entire driveway. I only took one representative photo because it looks down most of the driveway. And most of the plants in those photos are native grasses and sedges and native wetland plants. I did not observe any invasive species. That is likely from the lack of imported soil. So that speaks highly of not bringing fill in from other places. So I just recommend closing this out with a letter to the homeowner explaining that this issue is put to bed.
All right, do we hear a motion to that effect? Or is there anybody else who wants to speak to this? Okay, do we have that motion?
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we're going to take from Marilyn makes the motion, Brian second. There's a motion to close out this matter, with, this enforcement matter with a letter to the homeowner. Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Kalina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
And Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And that's done. We ready to move on to meeting minutes? Did everybody have a chance to read their meeting minutes? From July 10th,
The only one who can't vote is Jim.
right? They were lovely. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 10, 2024?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Marilyn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the minutes. Marilyn made it. Dot seconded it. Dot?
Yes.
Jim, you were absent. Megan?
Yes.
Kalina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes too. Super. All right, what is next? What's next?
I think that's it.
That's it.
I have on this thing as an update.
I do, I see an update.
Yeah, we already dealt with that.
Oh, that
We
was
already did
part of
that.
the 15 Kingston Street.
First hour dragged, last 20 minutes.
All right.
Are we on the public hearing?
Which property are you here for?
I'm here for
already did that
We
one.
did that.
Is that was the one that was on the second when I walked out?
I don't know if you
No, I
were
think
out
you were-
for that. I thought you were there.
It was wasn't that what we just did? Or the one before that?
That was the
Yeah.
one about the downspouts. Were you here for the
Yeah,
downspout discussion?
I heard the end of the downspout, so I was like wondering if that was my project or not.
Okay, are you the property owner?
No, I'm the representative
Okay.
from Rockwood Design.
Oh, okay,
That's
yeah.
why I'm
I
here.
thought I asked
Sorry.
if there was a
I do,
representative
and I'm
here.
like, this would be my luck.
Yeah, and I think 'cause
Where
we-
it just
yeah.
is like intertwined with the enforcement, but yeah, so.
No,
Yeah,
it's,
it's gonna go up to the
You want us to
microphone.
reopen
Can
it?
you ask her to go up to the microphone, please? I
We
can't-
do have
yeah,
to
you're
ask.
gonna go to the
You wanna
microphone, but
come
I
on
don't,
up
there's
to
no
the
need,
mic?
there's no need
No.
to reopen it.
And there is no need to reopen it.
Yeah, basically, the permit was issued with a stipulation that the plan has to be changed to show the language of every single downspout, including the
Yeah.
addition being tied in, and
Herbicide, no chemical.
there's a special condition that's used frequently about, not allowing any chemical fertilizers and all that. And there was some landscape waste that has to be removed from the slope leading down to the wetlands,
Okay,
so.
awesome. I had a feeling that was mine, but, I'm the architect to this project, not the land surveyor and geofamily.
Can you get her up to the microphone?
Sorry,
Would you
for
like-
Buzz and Jim, this is the architect on the project, so we didn't realize this was a representative.
Just give us your
I'll
name
introduce
for the
myself.
record.
Buzz. My name is Carly Tobias. I work for Rockwood Design. I'm their project manager. I'm sitting
you.
here. You probably can't see him. My little son is sitting here with a baby. There's a baby in this room, so everybody's kind of been staring over like, who is this girl? But I walked out of the room to use the restroom, and I came back in at the very end of you talking about the downspouts, and I thought that was my job, but I didn't want to interrupt. So I know your motions, and we can have John write that in. John Webby is the land surveyor, so I'll have him put that into writing. And is there anything else you need
No,
from
it's
us?
all-
Nope,
it's all set.
we're good.
Awesome.
No, although I would like to tell you that I'm sorry if I appeared rude to you, it's just that we can't,
Oh, no, no, no,
Right?
no, I understand.
Because we're trying to be
I do
helpful.
zoning meetings more.
Yeah.
It's just, that was a long lingering one, and it was just black and white where you need a architect and a civil engineer. So I hope the homeowner realized that in the end. If not, that's not my problem, sorry you guys. But, it was a pleasure meeting everyone.
Same here.
And Bobby, thank you for your time, and Jim, thank you for your time too as well. Thank you.
I didn't sign any of those documents
You
yet.
didn't?
Did
Okay.
you?
We'll
Too
sign
sorry
those and
about
send it
that.
down, because, we got those.
Thank you, it's nice meeting you too.
It was so nice meeting
Oh,
you guys.
and we have to close the meeting.
Yeah, we haven't yet, I just want, we'll close it
And
when
I'm
we
sorry, that will be written to
The
Jay
per-
Webby, or will that be written to, like, who will get that notice of the changes? I can tell him that, but I just,
I will send an email out, and we'll send, the permit won't be ready for a couple of weeks anyways.
yeah,
As
no,
far as
no.
signatures and everything, so.
Okay, all set.
Take care.
Have a great night.
Baby was awesome.
Yeah, he's gotta give him a bunch of, I give formula.
I know, just fill them up.
Breastfeeding.
All right, Colleen, let's get this closed out.
It never changes.
Yeah.
Okay, do I hear,
Thanks, you
do I have a
too.
motion to close this hearing?
Motion, make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Dot,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Galina, yes, Buzz,
Good night.
good night, and Marilyn,
Yes.
Brian. Okay, the meeting's adjourned.